Burnout is not a badge of honor. It never was. It's actually a reminder that you have an energetic boundary that is begging to be built.
For generations, women were shamed for trusting themselves, sensing things before they happen, and believing in their own power. No one encouraged them to embrace it until now. Welcome to Trust Yourself.
Let's do this. Boundaries, babe. Who's ready?
You love them or you hate them. Either way, we need them.
That's great point. And I am working on this. So this episode is more for myself than for you guys. Sorry.
Well, okay. This is going to be a personal therapy session for Sissy.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening and joining me on my therapy session. So let's get started. Have you ever found yourself crying in your car after saying yes to just one more thing you didn't have the capacity for? Maybe not Heidi.
I'm assuming you have.
I for sure have. But if you have, you're not alone, and you're definitely not weak. You could probably just use some work on your boundaries. And honestly, I think everyone could work on boundaries because it's not easy to do, right? And it goes against our societal norms. I know so many people that are just working themselves to the bone, and not just at work, but at home too, like overexhausting, overextending, just to be able to be seen, to be heard. And a lot of people, especially in corporate, think that burnout is a badge of honor. I think the next generation is also waking up to this, that burnout is not a badge of honor. It never was. It's actually a reminder that you have an energetic boundary that is begging to be built or repaired or fixed in some way. It's leaking right now, right? I truly think that burnout is a boundary issue. And in this episode, we're looking into the relationships between burnout and boundaries, reframing the idea of boundaries, and unpacking why high-achieving people, especially women, keep betraying themselves for approval. So we're going to be talking about how boundaries aren't selfish, they're spiritual. They protect your soul. So let's start our sacred no era. Let's start building those boundaries.
Ooh.
But before we dive in, I do want to mention that we are not doctors. We are not therapists. We are two women with access to academic articles and peer-reviewed journals. So the discussion today is merely our own opinion on the matter. So don't quit your job yet.
Okay, so let's start you guys off with some facts. 42%. That's the percentage of time your body and brain need to be spending in rest, okay? It's about 10 hours out of 24 hours in a day.
That's actually not that much. I mean, if you think about sleeping included in that time, if you do get 8 hours of sleep, that's not everybody.
Yeah. Typically when I'm at home, I get like 5.5 to 6.5 hours of sleep. I am on vacation right now, solo trip in Rhode Island. And I sent you a screenshot of my sleep last night because I went to bed at 8:30 and I woke up at 7. And I was like, I feel so good. So a testament to we need to create those boundaries. Mm-hmm. And also there was a 2025 Forbes study that said over 2/3 of employees are not meeting that. So this study found that job burnout is at 66%, which is at an all-time high.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. So what is burnout? Burnout is an overwhelming, prolonged stress to the point where you can no longer adequately perform your daily tasks anymore. And it doesn't just mean that you're working long hours. There's lots of different types of burnout and stress. So burnout can be triggered by lots of things. For example, setting or accepting unrealistic workloads and deadlines, which I know you're queen of that.
Guilty.
Unreliable schedule, like frequent last minute changes that you don't know what to prioritize, just kind of the chaotic schedule that comes along with motherhood and just life in general.
Yeah.
Also, multitasking, bouncing between home and work.
I think women especially wear this hat because we are constantly thinking about home when we're at work and work when we're at home. It's hard to, at least I'll generalize, for me at least, it's really hard for me to compartmentalize my life. Got to remember my kids have to be picked up at this time, so that means I have to drive at this time, and so that means I have to leave this meeting at this time. Oh, wait, what was I working on?
Especially for those of us that work from home too. It's so easy to blur the lines between work and home. So that brings us to the fourth one, which is lack of control. Things that are out of your control, but you feel obligated to fix, which, I mean, who doesn't feel that? all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Also, of course, your own perfectionism and high expectations.
Yep.
I'm a Virgo, and I feel like I'm not a perfectionist in like the normal perfectionist definition where I'm not okay with something being out there before it's perfect. Like, I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with is me not performing at my highest ability. That's what bothers me.
See, for me, it's fear of failure. I feel like I have to be perfect for others, not for myself.
Yeah. And then lastly, number 6, another sign of burnout is lack of recognition or support. And this can be from upper management, coworkers, but also friends, family, especially if you're doing something that is different. I know, like, we can speak to this because we're doing something different from what we were doing. And luckily for us, we do have support from our friends and family. But there are so many people out there that have these big dreams, big ideas, big goals, and just don't have that support. So really finding your people, creating your own community, that's really going to help with burnout.
Mm-hmm.
At a more broad scale, stress can be broken down into 3 different categories. The first being physical stress. So that would be something like a physical injury or a trauma, accident, something that happens to your body that causes a physical stress reaction.
Back pain, waking up when you're almost 40.
I mean, yeah, every day having some sort of ache and pain. That causes stress. Chemical stress are a result from illness or bacteria, viruses. Blood sugar imbalances too can cause chemical stress. And then lastly is the emotional stress. And this is kind of what we think of when we think of burnout, because that arises from life challenges. It's workload, work-life balance, family stress, financial difficulties, societal adversities, and injustices. So this is happening all day, every day to lots of people, some more than others, obviously. But we can't just gloss over that. So that's definitely part of the emotional stress.
Yep.
So what's actually happening when we're burnt out? What is the cost of saying yes when your soul wants to say no? I really like this metaphor. Sissy, I think you came up with it. You're trying to water your dream garden with a leaky hose. And that's so spot on. It's another visual of like trying to pour from an empty cup, but it's kind of a better visual, I think.
I think
so every time that you say yes and it comes from guilt, you are dinging your energy, right? It's like an energetic withdrawal. You're taking out energy from you instead of putting it back in.
Yeah. It doesn't light you up.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're not doing what lights you up and you're doing something that's draining you, you're going to have fatigue, and it's going to feel like physical fatigue as well, but it can also just feel like you're feeling off, you're feeling depleted, you're overwhelmed by small things. And physically what happens is your body gets stuck in that fight or flight response, right? Your sympathetic nervous system, the cortisol is spiking. What happens is when we don't rest enough, we're not getting enough parasympathetic time, we're not able to be in that rest and recovery state, we're in overdrive, and we are constantly flooding our body with cortisol, and it reduces our serotonin, and it definitely impairs our prefrontal cortex, which basically means your decision making is kind of got a fog over it. Your brain actually stops trusting itself, right? When your prefrontal cortex is kind of shutting down. So it's hard for you to even tap into your intuition. It's hard for you to even listen to your gut when you are overwhelmed with all of the stimuli and all of this guilt and feeling of needing to do everything, feeling of needing to fix everything. That kind of comes from burnout.
Yeah, I heard the sympathetic state is great for like short bursts of energy. It's like the comparison of running from a tiger that's chasing you. But then when you are in that constantly day to day, you are physically declining your body because you're not able to recover from it.
Right.
Our bodies weren't made to live in that state 24/7.
Absolutely not. I don't want to be running from a tiger all day, every day. No, thank you.
No.
Okay, so here are some sneaky signs that you might be starting to burn out. The first one is resentment towards others. I definitely was feeling this when I was working night shift as a nurse. I started to just resent anything and anyone. I resented bugs. Like I resented everything.
Bugs.
Like seriously, I'd be pissed off at a bug like making a noise when I was trying to sleep or something. Like it was a lot.
I found myself resenting those that I said yes to. Somebody asked me nicely, hey, will you do this? I'm like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, oh, how dare he ask me to do this? Well, because I didn't speak up. But that's me lashing out towards somebody that really it was my fault for having a very porous boundary.
Classic. Great example. Another sign that you're starting to burn out is zoning out, right? You're just kind of like going through the motions. Every day is kind of Groundhog Day. You don't really feel energized or excited about anything anymore. You're just almost a puppet in your own life. Another one, snapping at kids and family. Again, I did this all day, every day when I was a night shift. I didn't even realize it until I got off of nights. And once my body readjusted and I wasn't constantly flooding my body with cortisol, I realized that I had so much more patience. So even though now it's just every once in a while, it's much more manageable, obviously. But it just reminded me of, wow, I was really, really burnt out. Another thing is fantasizing about disappearing. That's dark, but it can happen.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. There are times when I did think, what would happen if I just escaped to Greece? Who would notice? And how long would it take for me to feel guilty and run back?
Another sign of burnout is feeling obligated, not inspired. And that's one of my favorite quotes that some really amazing woman came up with. I think her name was Heidi. Motivation without inspiration is just obligation. So if you're just obligated to do things, you're gonna slip into burnout real quick. Lastly, needing recovery time, even after small interactions. So even if you just feel like you need a minute after one phone call or one interaction with a coworker, you might be slipping down that slippery slope of burnout. Okay, so if you've been saying yes to these things, it might be time to set some solid boundaries.
I think it's important that we're talking about the sneaky signs of burnout too, because so many times leadership will say, "Oh, well, you're not working overtime. Why are you stressed? Why are you burnt out?" Like you said, it's not just working too many hours. It's way more than that, and it's built up over time.
Well, and it's never just one thing. It's never just work or just family life. It's a combination.
Right. Okay, so obviously it's pretty evident that we need to start setting boundaries, but yet so many of us just don't. If our bodies are physically being impacted because of this mental burden, why don't we start to speak up for ourselves? Why is it so hard for most of us, me, to set a boundary? I love this quote from Jay Shetty. He was talking about boundaries as well. And he said, people are willing to tolerate pain at the gym for our bodies, but we're not willing to tolerate discomfort in our minds from setting boundaries.
Oof. God, he always just like hits it, man.
Right?
He just, every time, nails it.
And when I heard that, I just thought of it from my own perspective. I mean, I ran track and cross country. I would run till I puke. But yet the thought of me saying no to somebody, oh my God, never.
Yeah, that is extremely ironic.
That makes no sense.
Wow.
Yeah, our brains, our minds, our muscles too. We need to exercise that muscle of saying no just as much as we exercise our other muscles. So,
yeah.
Well, actually, I don't exercise my other muscles much anymore, but you know what a doctor would say.
We'll get back into it. We'll get back into the gym and into running. It's fine.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, so why are we ignoring these signs and why are we not setting boundaries? It's always good to ask ourselves, why when we are stuck in a cycle. So what I've found is that we as a human species, we want to be seen. We want to be recognized. We are social beings at our core. Yes, even the introverts. We need a community to thrive. So I think we have an innate drive to belong, to fit in. And so if we say no, or if we set a boundary, we think, oh, they're going to be disappointed. They're going to outcast us. There's that fear of disconnection. And it's even harder on women because we have historically been silenced or ignored and not seen as equal. So we try even harder to fit in and to be heard. We have to speak up 10 times more to not be interrupted 3 times as much. Another reason why it's hard for us to set boundaries is because our culture praises and rewards the busy, full calendars for promotions, right? I've noticed even if you seem stressed out in front of your coworkers, that can look like, ooh, she's a hard, committed worker. She is working so hard days and nights, and she comes in every morning so stressed out. Her calendar is so full. She's going to be in leadership in no time. Isn't that sad and kind of messed up.
Corporate's such a fucking wild world. Like, I've never been, and I don't ever want to be.
Well, I mean, you even had that in nursing though, right? I'm sure at some level, like.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of nice on night shift because management was never there, but definitely in the mornings. Luckily, like in the mornings, we were really busy because we were doing like rounds and med passes and everything. But yeah, anytime that the management would show up, you'd be like, oh, gotta run around. Like, gotta look like I'm doing something.
Yes.
Gotta clean up the station and make sure it looks good.
Yep.
I also just remembered a quote that I don't even remember where this was, but at one of my jobs, one of the management said, if you're leaning, you should be cleaning. So it was like, if you're like not just like leaning around, not doing something, like you're leaning, you should be cleaning.
I think I heard this at my very first job when I was 15 years old working at Red Robin.
Yeah, mine was definitely when I was working at Cold Stone.
Yeah.
Give me a friggin' second, man.
I just got made fun of for wearing a Red Robin costume. Now just let me go cry in the bathroom for a second. Oh my God.
You need to go cry in the supply closet.
Oh my God, I'm pretty sure I did.
I do remember one time when I was working at Cold Stone, the management wasn't there and we were bored and we were 16 years old and I wrapped my shoes in saran wrap for no fucking reason. I think it was because I was mopping the floors and so it would like get all wet and my shoes would get wet and I hated it. So I just like wrapped my whole shoes in saran wrap and then started like ice skating around because it was slippery as shit. I was cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't they say that our brains aren't fully formed until we're like 25?
It was a brilliant idea, okay?
It seems like it, yeah.
Multitasking. I had fun and I was cleaning.
We digress. Okay, where was I? Okay, why else? Why else are we not setting boundaries? Another reason is that our society has actually deemed stress as normal, and it is expected to be worn like a badge of honor, to climb the ladder, if you will. And so obviously it's no wonder that all industries are experiencing high burnout rates right now.
Yeah.
So I actually believe that our capitalistic society wants us to be a little uncomfortable talking about these ways to regulate our bodies because they actually want us stressed. So we spend money on external things that will make us feel better, like food, medicine, shoes, purses.
Oh my God, I could go down a rabbit hole.
Right. So of course we make it kind of awkward to talk about this, about being introspective and finding peace with our authentic self, which again is why we're starting this podcast.
Starting? Girl, we're past the starting stage.
Oh yes. What am I thinking? The biggest reason we don't set boundaries, and actually I say biggest reason, but this is the biggest reason for me that I don't set boundaries, is that we have been trained to be good. And especially for women, we have been trained to be the good girl. And good means being agreeable, being accommodating, and being available. So our definition of what a good human being is actually someone that doesn't have boundaries at all. And that definition needs to change at its core, because if we start setting boundaries without changing that definition, like, okay, let's just set boundaries, I'll just say no. But then we're going to associate ourselves with being a bad person. And I think Jay Shetty also said that as well. But it's such a reframe that we don't think of normally as to why it's hard for us to set boundaries. But if we view it as actually not being a bad person, it's going to make it a little easier to set that boundary.
I also just had a thought as you were explaining this, because I was thinking, wow, that's very much like firstborn daughter vibes, but that wasn't me. But at the same time, for me, being the wild, rebellious one, the secondborn, I just didn't like boundaries. So I just don't create boundaries because I'm like, no, boundaries are control. I don't want control, or I want to have my own control. So for a long time, I also didn't set boundaries, not because I wanted to be a good girl, but because I associated boundaries with control, and I didn't want anybody or anyone to control my life.
Interesting. So what do we need to do? What do we do?
Help us.
I'm not going to say we have all the answers because I'm still working on this myself, but this is the biggest tool that I've been putting in my newest toolbox, and I think it's really, really starting to help me, is to just shift the narrative around boundaries. So if we think boundaries make us bad people, it's time to shift that narrative around boundaries and reframe boundaries as actually self-trust and self-love. Saying yes to them when you say no to yourself it isn't making you a good person. It's actually betraying yourself. It's betraying your own authenticity. So one way to reframe this thinking in just one sentence is tell yourself that you are allowed to disappoint others and still be a good person. Another reframe is to not think of boundaries as shrinking yourself. Think of it as making space for more. So Heidi, maybe this is a good one for your childhood. No, it's not confining. It's actually making more room for more things of what you love to do as a free-spirited, young, wild thing.
I've also loved, I've kind of created this visualization for me too. I had a Tupperware out and I looked at it and I just realized I was like, oh, this is a boundary, which I can fill up with whatever I want, but it's a space. So creating space, I never really understood what that meant besides like, okay, carving out time to do something. It's not always just carving out time. It's like creating the space, be like, okay, here's this space. What would you like to do in this space? And then take that and then figure out how to fit it into your life.
Yeah.
It just helps when you're a multi-passionate and you want to do billions of things all at once. And you're like, okay, here's my container. What do I want to put in it today?
Okay. So then the last shift that we want to reframe is thinking of who we are setting the boundaries for. So the problem is typically we've been thinking about boundaries as something we expect others to change for us, right? Please don't do that. I don't like it when you do that. In reality, a true boundary is protecting us from ourselves. I know that sounds bizarre, but let's say your boundary is that you don't want to go out on weeknights anymore for happy hours. You realize it makes you really tired the next day. So you tell your friend, please stop inviting me out. I feel really bad. So if then you're going about your next week expecting them to remember that, but maybe they forget, maybe they're already out at happy hour. They're like, hey, you should come join us. We're having a great time. Then you're going to resent them. You're going to get angry. Hey, you forgot about my boundary that I set for you. No, your boundary is for you. If I get invited out on a weeknight, I will decline. Then it's on you to turn that down or not, to accept it or not. Obviously, this can be easier said than done as well, but it's just a simple reframe of expectations. And again, this also helps so you're not putting the stress, you're not expecting others to remember because they can't. It's your own boundary. It's for you.
So here are 6 things that you can do to set boundaries without guilt.
Yay.
So number 1 is you can write a physical permission slip for yourself and read it out loud. It can say something like, I am not here to make everyone happy. Or something like, boundaries don't make me less loving. They make me feel more alive.
I really like the one, I think I already said it, but I am allowed to disappoint others and still be a good person.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2 is give yourself a buffer to respond. So you don't have to immediately respond, especially if it's a text or an email. You can even just say, let me get back to you on that. And you can say that in like a verbal response too. If somebody's standing right in front of you asking you, hey, do you want to do this thing? Like, you know what? Let me get back to you on that. I'll have to talk with my family or I have to check my calendar. Whatever it is that you feel like you need to do, you don't even have to give them a friggin' excuse. You can just say, let me get back to you on that.
And I know technology has made that so much harder because, when you see somebody's text bubble show up or something like, oh, they're writing back. Oh, she already saw that I read the message, so I have to respond. No, you don't.
Yeah. I have like the thing where you can preview the message before you actually open it. So it doesn't say that you've read it. And so I'll preview it and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to open that later when I have the capacity to actually respond to that. So that's helpful sometimes. Number 3, no is a full sentence. And let me be honest with you, Gen Z is nailing this because
so jealous.
Every time we have like 3 babysitters that we use. And anytime that I text them like, hey, are you available this day? The responses are fucking fabulous. And I like want to send back a clapping emoji every time. So like, nope, I'm busy that day. Like it doesn't give me an excuse. It doesn't give me this long, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 blah. Like all the things that we would have done. And it's so nice and I appreciate it. And I'm just like, thanks for letting me know.
I love that because I am horrible at just saying no. I feel like I constantly have to justify why I'm saying no. They don't understand or they don't care. They don't know my context as to my justifications. And I don't need to. I don't need to justify my own boundary. It's silly.
Did I tell you the time that I called out of work because I needed a day, and I prepared myself 5 minutes before I started to dial. I was like, okay, I'm just going to call them and I'm going to say, I can't come in tonight. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to call them and I'm going to say, hey, it's Heidi. I can't come in tonight. Thank you. And then hang up. And I called them, and as soon as the charge nurse answered, I was like, "Hey, it's Heidi. I'm so sorry. I'm just not feeling well." And like go on and on about all this stuff that wasn't even true. And and as soon as I hung up, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Because I said all of this excuse that wasn't even real, and their response was like, "Okay, we'll see you next time." And I was like, they didn't even care. They didn't even care. I could have just said, I can't come in tonight.
And then you leave feeling really guilty, like, oh, I lied, and now they're going to ask.
I felt even worse. I was like, why did I say that? Why did I say that? But that's what we do. That's what we were conditioned to do. Okay, so number 4 is just prepare for pushback. It reminds me of like the planes when they're like preparing for pushback.
I didn't even think of that.
Prepare for the pushback. All right, prepare yourself for pushback. If people, even your friends, if they're like, "Oh, come on, you can come out, you can just do one night or whatever," just prepare yourself for that ahead of time. Last week, Ursina talked about this, how she prepared in her like how she would have a conversation with somebody if they were like not open to what she does. And she talks about animal communication. If you haven't heard that episode, go check it out. It's amazing.
Please. Yeah.
But I think that idea of almost scripting things ahead of time is beautiful, because then you're not left scrambling. You're not trying to find your words in the moment. You've already thought about this. Like, okay, if somebody starts to push back, how would I react? And I think that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to note that I don't think we're saying here to always expect the worst of everything, right? But have an open mind to the fact that others might not be seeing it the same way you do. When we expect others to understand our boundaries, that expectation is actually causing stress. So yeah, no, you don't have to live in Murphy's Law 24/7, but
well, my husband does.
Well, I mean, is he stressed all the time about that? Like,
fuck yeah, he's constantly stressed. But I think that's kind of like the analytical brain of an actuary. It's like worst case scenario all the time. Let's prepare for all of the opportunities that could arise.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess if that's part of your job title, then I guess. But
I would love to know his cortisol levels. Oof, off the charts. Okay, lastly, writing your boundaries ahead of time. And Sissy, you kind of touched on this already, but creating those if-then statements, and also just thinking about what even is your boundary. Because if you don't even know your boundary, they're already blurred. So you really do need to kind of figure out when you need to set a boundary and what that would be for.
I think one really good way to figure that out, what your boundary should be, is to think of one area in your life where you feel resentment or depletion. Where are you feeling like you're leaking your energy?
So here's a good example. Currently, I am on a solo trip in Rhode Island, and I was at a doctor's appointment right before I came down here, and I told them I was coming, and the response of the nurse was like, "Oh, I would love to do that, but I would just feel so guilty leaving my kids." And I think that right there is a trigger to be like, "Oh, hey, maybe let's look at this. Maybe you're not allowing yourself to do something because of XYZ, but maybe that's something that you actually should be doing." Because that's almost like a trigger of your body and your spirit trying to tell you you need more you time because you're jealous of this, right? She was kind of jealous of me being able to do this. And jealousy is a really good indicator of that's something that I want.
Yeah.
Right. So
true.
think of things that you're jealous of and you wish you could do, and then try to figure out a boundary that you can create around that, so you can create that container of space and time to fill it with those things that you're quote unquote jealous of.
So well said, Heidi.
Thank you so
Clapping
much.
Emoji.
I feel like I stole a little bit of that from Mel Robbins, because I remember her saying jealousy shows what you want or something.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, she said it way better than that, but
well,
yeah,
that's good. We're right on track because we've already talked about Jay Shetty. So just put us up there with them.
Yeah, we should just be number 3 at this point, which it's Jay Shetty, Mel Robbins, us, or maybe Mel Robbins is first now. I don't even know, but
I have no
podcast,
idea.
number 1, number 2, number 3, trust yourself.
Well, like we've said before, boundary setting is a muscle And I think if we start with something small, like even canceling a subscription, or honestly, I actually have to do this pretty soon, cancel a gym membership that we don't use. I know how hard that is to do because they're like, nope, come on down to my office, physically come here, and then we will. No, ma'am, this is why I'm canceling, is because I don't actually go to the gym anymore.
Yeah.
So don't make me come down there. So practice small, say no in the next group text or something. Get in your no era.
I also want to point out though, too, it's not always like boundaries don't always have to be a no. It could be saying yes to you, saying yes to something for you, because that's something that I feel like we don't do enough of.
I love that. So just remember that you are worthy of love. You are worthy of everything just as you are. You don't have to justify yourself. You don't have to bend over backwards for others. You don't have to say yes when you mean no. You are worthy as you are. All right, it's time to trust the tarot with Heidi. She is going to pull some cards for us this week to tell us what we need to focus on this week.
All right, what's the message coming out for us this week? Oh my God, we
Ooh.
got flyers.
Oh,
geez.
straight
up.
All right, we got some strong messages this week.
We got some
apparently.
super strong messages. And honestly, funny thing is too, if you guys are on TikTok, follow us on Trust Yourself Podcast on our TikTok. I do a live tarot reading every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And funny enough, nearly every single one of these has come up in our tarot reading this week that just popped up right now. So it is a message that needs to be said. So the first one we got is 10 of Crystals, which is stability and attainment, and it's represented by the crocodile. And the crocodile to me is always really great because it's kind of like balancing on the edge of the earth and the water, and it just waits for things to come to him because it knows it will, right? You're so grounded and you're so stable, and you know that you have abundance coming to you and you can attain it. So he doesn't go and chase things. He doesn't go and find things. He just sits and waits and knows the good things will come to him. And then we got number 19, the sun, which is vitality and joy, represented by the hummingbird. And this one is it's all about light and joy and just following your light, following your life path, being aligned. And this is definitely what we're doing as we're creating space for ourselves, creating space for our personal growth and our spiritual journey. And then, of course, we got number 2, the high priestess. And she is represented by the lynx, and she is gorgeous. If you guys watch this on YouTube, you can see I'm holding up the cards. But the high priestess is all about intuition and sacred knowledge. And if we carve time for ourselves, we are able to tap into our parasympathetic nervous system and calm ourselves enough so we can open up our intuition again. So this is screaming that we need to pause, we need to create this space, and we need to tap into our intuition again. And lastly, we got number 4, the emperor, which is stability and focus, represented by the cougar, mountain lion. What do you call those?
Puma?
I don't know. Is there a difference between the three?
I think it also depends on geographical regions.
That's probably true. So I love that we got the high priestess along with the emperor. So it's kind of like that divine feminine energy and the divine masculine energy, very balanced. Number 2 is all about partnership and creation and love and devotion. And number 4 is all about that stability and foundation. And you need them both together to create a balanced life. And that's what we're all aiming for.
Can I also add that I think it's funny that the felines showed up, because when we think of cats in general, sometimes you think of being very selfish and, they don't need others to make them happy. They just are. I am worthy. I am good enough. I have a boundary.
Yes, cats are very good at boundaries. You're
Yeah.
right. Dogs are not so good at boundary setting. So
No.
let's embrace our feline energy this week.
Yeah. So Heidi and I have talked about this a lot. We feel like there's this collective shift that's starting to happen. People are starting to awaken to a more aligned life. And we are just here. We're happy to help get the word out. And we think in order to do that, we really need to stop overworking ourselves. We really need to start listening to our intuition. And in order to do that, we need to set these real boundaries. So let's start this movement. Please share this with your fellow recovering people pleasers who are just tired of being tired, and set those boundaries. And until next time, it's your move, sis.
Make it count.
Bye.